Hi, homeschooling families. This is Janet here from Covenant Homeschool Resource Center, and I have a wonderful treat for you guys today. I am here with Gretchen from Matthew C. Hello, Gretchen.
Hi, Janet. It's great to be here with you.
Oh my goodness, it's so funny. We just started the Facebook Live, and it seems that everything happens at the same time. All the telephones started ringing, and the doorbell started ringing. Even if I have a big sign there that says Facebook Live, coming through the side door. It's
It
like
does.
it is how life is. But so Covenant Homeschool Resource Center recently became resellers of Matthew C. And we have been wanting to do this for such a long time. And we have had so many families, almost every day, we get 2 or 3 families that ask us about Matthew C. And now we have it in stock here. We have it like right behind me and right to my right on this side. I have a whole shelf full of the books, teachers, instructor books, the DVDs, student books, manipulatives, everything that we can think about. And in front of me via Facebook Live, I have Gretchen with all the information that anybody wants to know about Matthew C.
Well,
So thank you for joining us.
I have to say that I'm a longtime homeschool mom. I homeschooled 6 kids, 21 years. It took me a while to find my way to Matthew C, but boy, am I grateful and glad that I did. I'm not a
Yeah.
strong mathematician. And in fact, I'd rather diagram sentences with you than teach math. But Matthew C was a total game changer, not just for me, but for my children as well. So I'm happy to
Wow.
answer any question you have, and let's go. Let's talk.
That sounds wonderful. So Matthew C has been around for a very long time, haven't you guys? When did Matthew C
30,
started?
35 years.
Wow.
Steve developed Matthew C 30. I think that's the right number. Okay, I
Mhm.
work for a math company. I should know that. But it should be about 35, 36 years ago. And Matthew C is a tremendous opportunity to help parents instruct mathematics, whether you're a confident mathematician or not, because
Mhm.
it gives kids the tools they need to learn how to guide their own academic experience. And that is fantastic.
So Gretchen and I were just talking about Matthew C yesterday, and we learned so. I learned so much from Gretchen. So anybody that's interested in Matthew C, please leave your comments, leave your questions, and I will ask Gretchen those questions. But so I became familiar with Matthew C back. I think it was like in 2008 when my I needed a geography, or 2007. I needed a geometry course for my high school student, my daughter, that was also being homeschooled. And we ended up choosing Matthew C, and it was great. And the funny thing is that it was more simple, and technically, it just felt easier than other math curriculums we had chosen. But both of my children decided to go off to college. And the very interesting thing is that even if math is not their strength area. And even if Matthew C seem easier, they actually score higher in their SATs. They score very high on the geometry section than what they did in any of the other sections. So it really is a very great program. Kids seem to understand it. And
That's
then my
great.
youngest one, she also ended up doing geometry, and she did pre-calculus. And she came into Covenant the other day and she solved the books. And she herself told me, Mom, this is the math book that helped me understand math better than any of the other math that we did. So I wish I would have found it sooner also. So what makes Matthew C different and unique?
That's a good question. So, Matthew C uses manipulatives in the very early lessons. We begin with Primer, the little red book that you see behind you. That's what we consider our K4, K5 preschool experience. And we use those manipulatives all the way through Algebra 1 because we believe that mathematics instruction needs to bring as many senses to the table as possible. So, you probably remember in your own school
Mm-hmm,
experience, the teacher pulled out the manipulatives on Friday because that was a cool thing to add to the math
mm-hmm.
experience. In the Math UC world, they are central to the instruction.
Wow.
So they are very important. The second thing that's unique about Math UC is we are a student-paced curricula. So you move forward in the materials as the student demonstrates their understanding. The third
Yeah.
thing that's important
Mm-hmm,
is we are a true mastery-based curricula. So every child is different and every child moves at their own pace, But as they master a concept, then they have the opportunity to move on and learn something new. So we don't have a one-to-one grade level experience. If you say, I need a third grade curriculum, my next question to you is, what does your student know? And so that makes a difference in Math UC. But you're also not bound by the strictures of a set amount of learning. Your child can move forward at their own pace. And often we find that children really embrace the process of Math UC and become very adept at it.
That's great. So I have the manipulative here to my side. I meant to put them right next to me, but I'm going to get it here. So this is the set that we use, that you guys use from the primer all the way to Algebra 1.
That's correct.
So can parents use Math UC without getting the manipulatives? How does that work?
Well, you asked me this question yesterday, and I gave you my snarky answer, and I'll give it to you less snarky. But the truth is, if you're not going to use the manipulatives, I don't recommend that you use Math UC, because these manipulatives are central to instruction. They're not supplemental. They look similar to other math manipulatives, but since every instruction revolves around the use of those manipulatives, we need them as part of the instructional process.
Exactly. That is actually really good to know. But we get people coming to Cabinet all the time, homeschooling families. They ask about Math UC all the time because I think they have been so successful with it in their homes. So I think it's really, I'm thankful that you guys are being so forward and so clear about everything that is needed for that curriculum. So for the primer to Algebra 1, the integral block set is the one that is needed.
Correct.
And then you guys have this other set. This one is called the Algebra, Decimal, and Insert.
Correct. And so those come into play when you reach what we call our Zeta level. Zeta is where we explore decimals and percents. And those manipulatives give us the opportunity to explore the smaller increments of decimals, which are less than what we call a single unit. And then they also give us the opportunity to explore math in base X. Most elementary school math is base 10. But we need a way to represent what base X looks like. And so that's why you will see those as a supplement to the manipulatives in the Zeta, pre-algebra, and Algebra 1.
So I noticed that so the primer, like you said, is the K4, and then you have alpha, beta, gamma, delta, epsilon, and zeta. Those are all the elementary grades.
Correct.
And they all are mastery. For example, alpha covers addition and subtraction. And how is a new parent to find out what level their child is, since you know there's
that's
no
a really good
level?
question. And since we have so many homeschoolers who are finding themselves accidentally but purposefully homeschooling this year, they may not know what their children know. We do have a placement tool, and of course you're going to have access to that placement tool there at Covenant. It can also be found online at mathuc.com. And that placement tool asks parents a variety of questions. The goal of that placement tool is to help a parent sort what their child knows from what their child doesn't know. In many instances, we might need additional resources, and you will have those available through me for your families. In case there's a situation where the parent really doesn't know what their student knows. Our goal is to put a student into Math UC at the end of their understanding and then be able to move them forward academically.
That's great. I have taken the placement test. Just obviously my children are all 26 and 30, older, but I pretended I had a little kid and I answered some of the questions. I really like the placement test. It's very easy to use, and it doesn't take that long, so it's pretty clear. And then what I like is that, again, we can call you if there's additional questions.
Correct.
So I had a family who just started homeschooling, and they purchased a specific curriculum, which is nice, but it wasn't working for their kid because in the traditional school, the child was doing common core math, and she had not memorized any facts. So
Mm-hmm.
now the curriculum expected for her to have the facts memorized. I think the little girl was in third grade. So
Okay.
so at the time it didn't occur to me, but now that we have Matthew C, because this is a couple of weeks ago, and
Mm-hmm.
I wish I would have thought about it. So would beta been a good thing for her to do to practice her multiplication facts?
So I'm glad you asked the question. Just
Mm-hmm.
very briefly to go through the
Mm-hmm.
difference in the
Mm-hmm.
levels. Primer, we call a gentle introduction to math.
Mm-hmm.
We assume they know nothing. And it's a lot of math explored, but nothing is taught to mastery. It's just exploration. The first mastery level is alpha, and our goal is threefold in alpha. It is to teach you place value, to help you commit to memory your addition and subtraction facts, and to begin an understanding of word problems. Matthew C teaches word problems in every single lesson because when math comes to you and me, it is a word problem.
Yeah.
And so once we have memorized that skill set, then we step into beta. And beta is where we apply addition and subtraction to everything else we do with addition and subtraction: time, money, measurement, regrouping in addition and subtraction to 3 digits. And so in beta, that once we've completed beta, it's given us everything we need to know with regard to addition and subtraction. Gamma then steps us into multiplication.
Mm-hmm.
And we begin with skip counting, but we use that as a bridge to memorizing our multiplication facts. And by the time a student finishes gamma, they're proficient with word problems, and they have memorized their multiplication facts, and they can multiply 3 digits times 3 digits, and they know where everything belongs.
Mm-hmm.
Delta is the inverse of multiplication. That's division. And the goal of teaching division, let's face it, nobody wants to do long division
Yeah.
with a pencil if
Mm-hmm.
you have a calculator or a phone. But there's a virtue in knowing how to estimate. And long division is the crucible by which we teach estimation. Once you've finished delta, you have all the computational skill sets necessary. So then we turn our attentions to epsilon, and epsilon is where we apply addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division to fractions. And in my personal opinion, that is the absolutely most important level of mastery for upper level mathematics. If you're not proficient at fractions, upper level math is really difficult.
Mm-hmm.
It also happens to be my favorite level of math because that's where I learned that my inefficiency with upper level math was rooted in my inefficiency with fractions. The
Oh.
last Greek level is decimals and percents. That's the zeta level.
Mm-hmm.
And decimals and percents are a translation of fractions. And that really is the most practical level of math, you see, because you and I as adults deal with decimals and percents every single day because it relates to money.
Yep.
And so once a student has finished Zeta, they have everything that would comprise an elementary school experience. And then we step into a traditional progression of pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calculus, and calculus.
So for the elementary grades, more or less, how much time will the students and the parents be spending doing the lessons?
That's a good question. So
Mhm.
the instruction is delivered in 2 components. It comes in a DVD, and then there's also an online component. The
Mhm.
DVD component and the online component are exactly the same.
Mhm.
The online component also contains the instruction manual. And so we consider the DVD and the instruction manual to be the totality of the instruction. And what I often say to parents is the DVD is how to use those manipulatives, because I wouldn't have a clue how to
Yeah.
represent mathematics with the manipulatives if somebody didn't show me how. And the
Mhm.
instruction manual is why. And
Mhm.
so, as far as a parent's preparation is concerned, our expectation is that the parent will watch the DVD and read the instruction manual. And then most of our families have their student watch the DVD as well. And then
Yes.
they sit down to practice together. So, in any given lesson, a parent's looking at somewhere around 15 to 20 minutes of instruction. Kind of depends a bit
Yeah.
on how fast you read. But,
Yes.
but if you have done that, then you are
Mhm.
prepared. And the reason you need to be prepared is because there's an element of our instruction called the teach back. And that is after the student has practiced the concept they are learning, they need to teach it back to someone.
Very
Because isn't
nice.
that the highest level
Yes.
of learning? If I can teach you how to do something, I really know how to do it.
Yep.
And that's what we want our students to do. So the parents need to know what the student is doing in order to be able to address that teach back element.
So altogether it'll take like 20 minutes
Probably
or
20 minutes of preparation.
okay,
And
very
then
nice.
the first day, if your student watches the video with you and then practices with the first page, you're
Mm-hmm.
looking at maybe 15 minutes of instructional
Very
time,
nice.
which is something that is very different from a lot of other mathematics
Mm-hmm.
curriculum. We want to be developmentally appropriate, and
Mm-hmm.
learning theorists tell us that the average 7-year-old has an attention span of their age plus 2 to 3 minutes.
Uh-huh.
So 15 minutes is probably the outer edge of their attention for a mathematics lesson in a day. And we structure our lessons to be that. To be honest, when I first looked at Math UC and I looked at what comprised a lesson, I said, that's not enough math.
Uh-huh.
And I look back at that now and I think I made the misapprehension of thinking more was better. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not true. That's
I
absolutely not true.
I have to fully agree because that, like I mentioned with my experience with geometry and
Mhm.
the scores of my children in SAT, and again, my kids are not math inclined. I was a little concerned. It felt a little too easy. It felt a little too simple, but I think it was done so well, and they were understanding the concept so well, and in less time that it actually worked out really well. So, in some other curriculums, the parents can do just fine without the teacher guide, without the instructor book. In this one, it's important to look at it and use it, correct?
Yes. And
Mm-hmm.
here's, I sometimes will see parents say, oh, I didn't open the instruction
Mm-hmm.
manual until I got to Delta. Well, yes, the instruction manual does contain the solutions, and at addition and subtraction, I would hope you would be able to know the answers without needing to
Uh-huh.
consult the answer keys.
Mm-hmm.
But the instruction manual also contains vital components to help you be the best instructor
Yes.
possible. And
Mm-hmm.
so I think it's a vital component of the materials.
Yeah. It's been a while since I used it, of course, but I remember reading it and also looking at the videos and referring to it, and it was very, very useful. So I think I would highly agree with what you
Well,
said.
geometry is my second favorite level of math, you see. So behind Epsilon. I
Very
love the way
nice.
we teach geometry because we do it very practically.
Mm-hmm.
We make it understandable. And Mr. Demme has always said, why would I teach you how to create a proof until you have a full understanding of why a proof might be necessary? And I
Very
think that's a
good.
wonderful philosophy.
I have to agree. Yeah, and he makes it fun too, because I remember watching the video with my children, and he had something about a lightsaber, just when he was talking about
he,
lines. And
he
I mean,
is he is
yeah.
definitely our resident celebrity, and we enjoy his instruction so much. What
Mhm.
I found tremendous is there comes a prophet in all of our lands. There comes a time in all of our lives when we're no longer the prophet in our child's land, so to speak.
Mhm. Mhm.
And my children would do for Mr. Demme what they wouldn't do for me. And
Mhm.
so I didn't have to have the argument of, I need you to show your work. I could say, Mr.
Yeah.
Demme says you need to show your work. And that was
Yeah.
a marvelous way to do that.
That's great. Okay, so high school has, the secondary courses are pre-algebra, algebra 1, geometry, algebra 2, pre-calculus, and calculus. So
Correct.
sorry about that noise, people. It's like the reality of everything that just gets piled up. How different is the high school, the secondary levels to the elementary? Are they more independently guided? How do they work?
Well, the hope would be that by the time your student reaches pre-algebra and algebra 1, they have learned how they learn best and that they
Mm-hmm.
can guide their own learning. Now, let me also say every child is different.
Mm-hmm.
And in that process, I have had some children that were fully independent in their
Mm-hmm.
academics by the time they were in the epsilon level. And
Mm-hmm.
I had some children that I had to sit on and hatch like an egg until they hit algebra 2.
Yep.
So, that having been said, the goal of a Math UC experience is for a student to begin to explore how they learn best and then apply that learning successfully. So, of course, you're not going to get through Algebra 1 in a 15-minute lesson,
Mm-hmm.
but the opportunity to do Algebra 1 gives a student the ability, again, to bring as many senses to the table and to practice until they have full understanding. And so that makes a tremendous difference. I actually found my way to Math UC at pre-algebra. So I had never done the lower level instructional content until my fifth child came along. I found my way to pre-algebra because I had a student who was struggling mathematically, and she now is a research biologist.
Oh,
So Math
great.
UC was a great ticket for her. So
Uh-huh. That's wonderful. Okay, so the newest course that you guys have is calculus, and if I'm correct, you guys didn't have that when I was still homeschooling.
and
The
you're going to ask me a question I don't know the answer to, because calculus has been around as long as I have been a Math UC
okay.
representative. I know it's been around for at least 15 years.
Okay, well, never
Um,
mind. I probably just didn't notice it.
but it is a B level. So there's calculus A and calculus B, and I've
Hmm.
never done calculus and hope never to ever have to do calculus.
Hmm.
Um, my fifth son has a degree in computer science, and he teased Mr. Demme a couple of years ago and said he wished. He said, "Mr. Steve, why don't you write a college calculus course? Your materials are so much better than what I'm taking in college."
Hmm.
And Steve said, "I hope never to do that." So,
Well, I can tell you, I had my youngest child do pre-calculus for her last math, and she's not math inclined, but she loved it, and
that's
she
great.
thought it was very interesting, and she really enjoyed it.
That
Okay,
makes
so
you a powerful advocate for Math UC.
it does. I really wish I would have found it sooner, like I said. And my friend Chris, my team member here, she when we were talking to you yesterday, she said the same thing. So also, I almost forgot. Chris's oldest son had dyslexia. So this program is actually really good for dyslexic children, isn't it?
Yes, as a matter of fact, there's national dyslexic forums that recommend Math UC
Excellent.
because of that ability to step around what is glitchy for a student in their
Mhm.
learning and help them bring to the table what they can do well and encourage them to do more of that. I am Demi's special needs consultant. I work with a
Uh-huh.
lot of families who have kids who learn with glitches. I'm also the parent of a now adult dyslexic, and Math
Mhm.
UC was a tremendous game changer for him. He's my computer science
Oh, that's
geek.
wonderful.
And he's still at home with me. He's 21 and works full time in the computer world. But he would tell you Math UC was a game changer for him.
That's
And
great.
I think one of the benefits is we're not language heavy.
Hmm.
We give kids the ability to, particularly when you have a younger dyslexic student, being able to use those manipulatives to help them visualize the process is integral to their success.
Yeah. So anybody, if you're interested in math, if you don't know much about it, come over, visit us. We have all the manipulatives, we have all the textbook, we have a lot of information, and we have access to Gretchen. So if there's anything that we do not know, we can call Gretchen and learn about it. So anybody interested in math, please come over. Okay, so before we leave, Gretchen, we have met so many families this summer, especially. I mean, every single day we're meeting several families, and it's starting to slow down, but do you have any words of encouragement for these families that find themselves homeschooling now when they had not originally thought about it
I
before?
do. I do. Actually, I have a couple of things I'd like to say. I
Mhm.
just wanted to, before I do that, I wanted to circle
Mhm.
back to the young lady you asked about beta
That's
and
right.
who had not memorized her facts.
Yes.
You also have there in your possession AIM for addition and subtraction.
Yes.
And AIM is not a level of math you see. AIM is an intervention, and it is designed to help a student who does not have fact proficiency acquire that fact proficiency
Mm-hmm.
in an efficient and quick way.
Mm-hmm.
What we want to do is we want to move a child away from finger counting, touch point math, using a calculator, a number line, whatever it is that they're doing that's really a counting strategy, and move toward fact mastery. And the
Mm-hmm.
reason that we want to do that is because as the mathematics becomes more complex, it becomes ever more difficult for a student to remain engaged if they have to step aside to count for a fact. And so we want to make that easier. So if we have parents who have kids coming out of a public school environment and they have not memorized their facts, AIM
Mm-hmm.
might be the perfect first step. It's designed
Yeah.
for kids who are ages 8 and older, who have
Mhm.
already had a grade level experience in mathematics and haven't been as successful as we'd like them to be. So it is designed for a parent to help a student achieve success. As
Yes.
far as thoughts for those new homeschooling families, I was that reluctant homeschooling
Mhm.
family. I had no intention of homeschooling my children. But believe it or not, my daughter was told in 3rd grade she didn't have to memorize her multiplication facts. And I knew that that was a fallacy. I knew that it would make a tremendous difference for her if she had memorized her facts. And so I pulled her out of school in the middle of an academic year and began homeschooling back in 1995. So
Mhm.
that'll tell you that the lunacy of fact mastery has been around for a long time.
Yeah.
I would encourage parents, can look like eating an elephant, but if you have been given the joy of a child to raise, you
Mhm.
certainly have the wherewithal to educate them.
Mhm.
And don't have to do it all at once. Homeschooling doesn't have to look like what you do in a school. And I
Mhm.
have this conversation. Talking with dozens of families every week. I'm talking with as many families in a week now as I talked with in a month this time
Yes.
last year.
Yes.
And what I say to every parent is you must do 3 things well. You must teach your child to read and have them read as much as possible. You must find a solid mathematics curriculum because we live in a world of mathematics and we can't step around it. And you have to be able to teach a student to spell.
Mhm.
And I think spelling is critically important because we spend more and more of our time in written communication in this day and
Mhm.
age. And if you've ever gotten a communication from someone and it has errors in it, I know you've made assumptions. Even though English is not your first language, we've talked about
Mhm.
the necessity of being able to spell well.
Yes.
So I hope sometime I get to talk to you about spelling, you see, and perhaps we'll do that down the road.
We
But let me say,
will.
as an aside, any parent has the capacity to homeschool their child.
Yes.
And my word of encouragement is your cup is half full.
Mhm.
Enjoy this journey.
Yes.
Enjoy getting to know this person you have
Mhm.
birthed or adopted or been given into your
Mhm.
care, and watch them grow and
Yeah.
achieve and succeed. I wouldn't have traded my homeschooling years for anything because, as you well know, it's a joyful journey.
It really is. It really is. And we're not alone in it. There's so many other homeschooling families. Um, so I have Jessica leaving a comment here, and she
Yes.
really is interested in the aim. So I actually
Great.
have a set here that we can show you, Jessica. And then this one is for additional facts. And then there'll be a multiplication one coming up in January. Is
Yes,
that
I'm
correct?
very excited about that. AIM for
Yeah.
multiplication is
Yeah.
we just finished recording the videos for it. We're
Mhm.
working really hard, and
Yeah.
that should come out the first part of January. And of course, Janet, you on the short list to get the first one. So
Yay! I'm so excited. But going back to what you were saying, it is I agree with you. Just enjoying your children being at home, adjusting to all the changes that you're having to deal with and it really is a wonderful blessing. Even with the bumps in the road that we have to kind of
right.
iron out and go through, it's at the end of the road. It is just a wonderful, wonderful adventure. And
Yes. And even
yeah.
if it's just for a season, what a
Mhm.
marvelous season it would be.
Yes, absolutely. So, Gretchen, thank you so much for being with us. And we are going to do another Facebook Live in about 2 weeks, hopefully, about spelling, you see.
I
That one
can't
is
wait.
I know, I'm really excited. And we have them here too. So I'm going to be reading the instructor books, which are super skinny and simple. So they have great information. So I'm really excited to learn more. So when we talk next time, I will know a lot more than what I know now.
I think you have enough information right now to help the next person that walks through that door to get started with spelling UC. I think you'll do a great job. But of course,
Sounds
I'm happy to
great.
be a resource, and it's been a pleasure to spend this time with you. And I look forward to the next time we get to share time together.
Sounds great. And then families, keep leaving us message. I see a couple more messages, and we'll answer them. And again, Gretchen too is available to help us with all of this. So Gretchen, thank you so much for being with us, and we will see you in another Facebook Live in about 2 weeks.
That sounds great. I can't wait. Take care,
Sounds
you
great.
guys. All righty.
Bye.